A warm welcome to Disky Talk with Luyolo. If you're tuning in for the very first time, I do ask that you please subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you have been a part of this journey, I hope you thoroughly enjoy this episode. So, on today's episode, I discuss all things CAF Champions League as Mamelodi Sundowns take on Ahly. By the way, this episode is proudly brought to you by Manscaped. Just like a game has two teams, a man has two balls. And on today's episode, I've got two products. So the first being then the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant, and secondly, the Crop Reviver Ball Toner. This will change the way you approach hygiene. Trust me, fellas, when I say this, your balls will thank you. So let's head into the tactical pre-match analysis of Mamelodi Sundowns versus Ahly. So when you have a look at the blue team, then they will represent Mamelodi Sundowns, and then the red team will represent Ahly. So coming up into this encounter, then it is quite interesting then that the last time out that these two faced each other, it was in Egypt where Mamelodi Sundowns managed to get a 1-0 win. Ahly were very dominant in that game, and on another day, that is the type of game that they could have won by a couple of goals. However, Mamelodi Sundowns did get the 3 points as they do sit top of the group. So when you have a look at it then, they did also change their formation. They had been playing the 4-2-2-2. However, as of late, we've seen them play a 4-3-3. So when you have a look at it then, in goals, the last time out, they did start with Zwane. However, if Onyango is fully fit, I do foresee him returning to goals. So it's just a matter of time with regards to what the technical team say and the announcement then we get with regards to Onyango's fitness. But I do think that he should be fit for this encounter. If not, you will have Zwane in goals. So when you have a look then at the back four, Lila K as the left back. So when you have a look at Lila K then, this is a player then who offers Mamelodi Sundowns so much quality going forward and in advanced positions as well on the left hand side with regards to the quality that he possesses and his technical skill set. So when you have a look at him then, he can deliver those quality balls into the box. He's also then a player who's very good with standard situations with regards to set pieces and those direct set pieces as well. However, when you have a look at his defensive side, at times he does tend to struggle if he comes up against a very quick player who's very skillful as well. So coming up into this encounter, it's going to be very important that he ensures that he's solid and that he's able then to offer Mamelodi Sundowns that discipline within those defensive positions, especially then within vertical zone 1 in the left wide channel, whenever then he does have a 1v1 defensive situation. So coming up into this game against Ahly, you will have Lila K at left back. And then two centre backs, I do foresee Brian Onyango and then Rushin Duruk starting as a pair. So when you have a look at these two, I think they've been very important for this Mamelodi Sundowns side, especially considering that as of late, Mamelodi Sundowns haven't been playing the best football, and when you're not playing the best football, it's then also very important that you don't concede goals so that you give yourself the best possible chance to at least get a result of getting a draw. So when you have a look at Onyango and you have a look at Rashim Duruk as a pair, they've been doing very, very well for this Mamelodi Sundowns side, and they've kept a couple of clean sheets as well, and they are then establishing a very solid centre-back pairing. At the moment at Mamelodi Sundowns, this is their best centre-back pairing with regards to how then they look to defend their box and defend their team as well. And when you have a look then at the two danger zones in football, you've got zone 14. So zone 14 would be that zone, that pocket of space, and then you've got the box as well. So with these two then, they become very good at ensuring then that they're able to guard zone 14 and that they defend their box very, very well, and ensuring then that Sundowns don't concede a lot of goals. So I do foresee them starting as a pair, and with Sundowns then, whenever they do look to build up, This is what you would often see. You'd have Nyango there, you'd have Rushin Duruk there, and then you'd have Rivaldo Kutsia going into the box and looking then to facilitate the build-up. So that is how Mamelodi Sundowns look to build up. So when you then move along then and have a look at the right back. At right back, I do see Khuliso Mdau starting there. This is a player then who's been doing very well as of late, and even then against TS Galaxy scored a beautiful goal, and a player then who keeps improving, and a player then who you know that from a defensive perspective he's got that box ticked, and he's going to ensure that he offers that defensive solidity for this Mamelodi Sundowns side. So he does at times tend to offer the width for this Mamelodi Sundowns side. However, he isn't a player then who's always going to bomb forward. He does tend to occupy a deeper pocket of space at times. However, if the game does open up and allow, then he will look to go forward. And at times, he has delivered very good balls into the box. And I would then say that the only issue then with him is not the quality then of his final ball, but it would be decision making. So at times he'd really struggle with that because he'd get into a very good position and he'd be caught in two minds. Am I shooting? Am I crossing? And then he'd make a bad decision, and then that's what would lead then to him not being sure with regards to his final ball. However, whenever then he does get into that pocket of space within the right wide channel where then he's looking then to deliver a cross, he does often at times deliver good crosses. So Khuliso Mdau to then start as a right back, and I do foresee then when Lila K pushes up on the left hand side, I do foresee Mudau sort of just coming in and just ensuring that he becomes a bit narrow, just then to offer that defensive cover for Mamelodi Sundowns. I don't see them being too open, especially considering then that in this game they are in a very good position. Also, when you have a look at the table, Ahly have to come out and play, So I do foresee Sundowns being a bit conservative, much like they were in Egypt. So it's going to be very interesting then to see how the relationship between the fullbacks is instituted at times. Will we see both of them pushing up at times, or will you see them when one pushes up, one stays? And that's what I think is going to happen on the day. So when Lila K does push up, I do see Mudau occupying a deeper pocket of space. And then when you move into the heart of midfield, so like I mentioned, they have changed to a midfield 3. The last time out against Al Ahly, they did start with the midfield 3 of Rivaldo Kutsia, Andile Jali, and Tebogo Mokoena. However, we did see Jali go off injured, and he has not featured ever since. So I do think then that the midfield 3 that they could possibly go with, then use Rivaldo Kutsia, who will play as the defensive midfielder, and then Tebogo Mokoena and Ashim Domingo as well. So we have seen that within the league and within the NetBank, they have changed that midfield 3, So we did a couple of times see Tebogo Mokoena, Domingo and Kulisi. However, I do see Rivaldo Kutsia coming back into the heart of midfield for this game against Al Ahly. So Rivaldo Kutsia, Tebogo Mokoena, and then Hashim Domingo. So when you have a look at this midfield 3, they really complement each other from a midfield personalities perspective, especially when you consider that Rivaldo Kutsia would be the defensive-minded midfielder, and he then plays as a libero for this Mamelodi Sundowns side. With regards to then how at times, let's just move the front 3 up, just so we don't confuse you guys. So at times then, he would look then to drop in between there and sort of make it a back 3. Whenever play then dictates for him to drop in between. However, the pocket of space then he would occupy, that's where he would be most of the time. So Rivaldo Kutsia then is a very key and important player within the heart of midfield for this Sundown side, as his midfield personality is the passer. And then when you move on right along then, and you have a look at Tebogo Mokoena, he is the box-to-box, he is the 8, and he is then the energizer within that heart of midfield. And then when you have a look at Hashim Domingo, he is much more the creative-minded midfielder. So he's the one then that would tend to advance further up within the right-sided half space, within the left-sided half space. He would then look to receive the ball in between the lines, where then he'd offer Mamelodi Sundowns that positional superiority with regards to how he receives the ball in between the lines, and also then his movement then laterally in between the lines also then becomes very important. So when you have a look at that midfield three, they complement each other very well, because then you do have the defensive-minded midfielder who is then the passer. You do have the energizer who goes box to box, and then you do have the really creative midfielder who's willing then to advance into those tight pockets of space further up the pitch, who's then willing then to take the ball under pressure, who's also then willing then to try play those penetrative passes within the final third as well. And then when you then also consider that within the heart of midfield, they do have other options. So if Jali does recover, he is an option. They do have Toby Mvala, who then offers that skill and that physicality within the heart of midfield if they need that. They do have Mkhulisi as well, who then offers then his speciality of being a great ball carrier and a midfielder then who's able then to take the pressure off his defensive midfielder with regards to showing for him and ensuring then that he really controls that heart of midfield and how then he progresses the ball for his team. So you do have a couple of options within the heart of midfield. You also then have Savridra as well, depending on how his fitness is coming about, because he also did get injured. So it's going to be very interesting then if Mamelodi Sundowns can get some of those players back from injury, then they have a lot more options within the heart of midfield. But I do foresee then Rivaldo Kutsia, Tebogo Mokoena, and Hashim Domingo starting as a three within the heart of midfield. And then of the left-hand side, I do foresee them starting with Uralani. Up front, I do foresee Shalulile, as Shalulile has then found his goal-scoring boots again. He has scored a couple of goals within the DStv Premiership. And this is a player then who's starting to find that confidence again, which then will bode very well for this Mamelodi Sundowns side, especially looking at the time then, because this is the time where Mamelodi Sundowns are going to start needing those goals, because from this point then, they're obviously looking to secure that top table finish, where then they can advance to the quarterfinals of the CAF Champions League. And then off the right-hand side, I do foresee Themba Zwane starting on the right-hand side. So with regards then to Ralani and Themba Zwane, these then are two creative players then who would often drift into the half space and oftentimes drift into those central pockets of space, where then they're looking then to receive the ball in between the lines and ensure that they're able then to be able to be those playmakers for this Mamelodi Sundowns side. At times, you will see them then drifting right into the heart of midfield, where then they can ensure that they create that numerical superiority and that qualitative superiority for this Mamelodi Sundowns side with regards to then how they're looking to outnumber the midfield of Ahly and have that numerical advantage. So then when you then have a look at the other options that they do have within the front three, you do have Kutumela, who gives you a different perspective with regards to how he looks to press, his energy and his goal-scoring ability as well. And you do also have Kapinga, you do also have Mayema, you do have Safranco, you also have Kermit Erasmus as well. So this Mamelodi Sundowns side then has a plethora of options, and it's going to be very interesting to see then as to which players then can get fit, and when they do get fit, how then do they fit into this 11 with regards to preparation for Al Ahly. However, this 11 that I have named, I think this is the most likely 11, as it is subject to change, yes, of course. And a key player then for this Mamelodi Sundowns side coming up into this encounter, I do foresee then Hashim Domingo being very important within that heart of midfield, because then he offers them a bit of that creativity within the heart of midfield. A player then who can take the ball under pressure, he can advance in between the lines and look to collect that ball, and he can also then find those penetrative passes, and is also a player then who did recently show us that he can score worthy of a goal from outside the box as well. So he does offer them that quality within the heart of midfield. So very interesting then to see how Mamelodi Sundowns will go about things and how it really pans out. However, I do see Mamelodi Sundowns being a bit cautious and not being too open in this game because they are the more relaxed side in relation to where they find themselves within the group. So let's move on right along then and let's have a look at Ahly. So when you have a look at Ahly then, they're under pressure because they haven't gotten off to a good start within their group, and this is a team then that will be looking to collect maximum points, especially coming up into this encounter. So this is what makes this encounter so interesting because now they come to South Africa, so it's an away game for them. They have to come out and play, and usually then when teams play away within CAF Champions League, they tend to be a bit more conservative. However, Ahly cannot afford to. They have to come out and play. So when you have a look then at Ahly, they do line up then in a 4-3-3 system. So in goals then, you will have Al-Shenawai. He's a very experienced campaigner and also then the captain of Ahly. When you have a look at the back four then, at right back, you do have Mohamed Henny as this is a complete fullback with regards then to his skill set. So with Henny then, this is a player who can push up, and whenever then he does push up, he does offer Ahly that quality with regards to the type of crosses that he can deliver. However, he's also very, very good within 1v1 defensive situations where at times you will maintain a deeper position within the right wide channel, and a player then who at times he will maintain a deep pocket of space as opposed to looking then to go forward. Very complete then with regards to also ensuring that on the right hand side he can progress the ball for Ahly as he's very comfortable on the ball, very strong in the 1v1 and also then in the tackles as well. So he then starts as the right back, and then the last time out they did start with Abdul Monet. So Abdul Monet is a young centre back for this Ahly side. He's been doing very, very well, and he's also then very solid and very comfortable on the ball as well. This is a player then who I do foresee then in the near future actually then going to Europe, because I think that he's been very good for this Ahly side, and he's had quite impressive performances. And when you do have a look then at him and how Ahly look to build up, he then is very important, because when Ahly build up, it is different to how Mamelodi Sundowns build up. So that is how Ahly would look to build up, as opposed to them having the defensive midfielder come into the box. Well, they look to build up like that. So whenever then the ball is played into him, he becomes very important with regards to finding that pass into consolidation phase. So the first phase of play with regards to the build-up is very important then, especially then when you consider his technical skill set. This is a player then who can also then switch the point of reference and play those 50-40 yard passes into the wide channel. So very comfortable on the ball and also very solid, and he reads the game very well. And then when you have a look then at the left-sided centre-back. So the last time against Mamelodi Sundowns within the CAF Champions League, they did then start with Ibrahim Yassir. However, against El Merreikh within the Champions League, which was their last game within the Champions League after the Mamelodi Sundowns game, they did start with Rabia as the left-sided centre-back. So they could either start then with Rabia, or they could then start with Ibrahim Yassir, either or as the left-sided centre-back. And then at left back, you've got Ali Malul. So this is a player then who is very important for this Ahly side with regards to then offering them the width on the left-hand side, and then also offering them the quality then from the wide channel with regards then to the crosses and being able then to progress the ball down the left-hand side, and also offer them that creativity with regards to the types of chances that he creates for this Ahly side. Very important, as he's a very aggressive fullback. So unlike Mohamed Henny, he tends to bomb forward a lot more, and they do tend to overload the right hand side, where then they're looking to isolate Ali Malul. Then you got the big switch, they get it to Ali Malul because he's very dangerous then within the final third, and how penetrative and creative he can be for this Ahly side. And then when we move on then right along within the heart of midfield, so within the heart of midfield they do have Hamdi Fati. And when you have a look at Hamdi Fati, this is a player then who is very experienced, very calm on the ball, and he does then offer this Al Ahly side that poise and that ability then to seamlessly build up from the back and then being able to work it within the heart of midfield. He also has a very good range on him, so he's not just a player then who can play those 5-10-yard passes, but he can also then switch the point of reference and give you that 40 to 50-yard pass. A player who's very comfortable on the ball and can also find those penetrative passes in between the lines, which then look then to find his more advanced players. And then when you have a look at it then as the player then who would occupy the right side of half space within the midfield three, you have Alou Dieng. This is then, I believe, the best midfielder within Africa, and a player then who I've been really impressed by. This is a complete midfielder in the sense that from a defensive perspective, he really ticks that box. And then from an offensive perspective, with regards to how he progresses the ball for this Al Ahly side and how he looks to control the game, he also ticks that box. And what I like then about Alou Dieng is that he's also got these sort of mazy solo runs that he would often go on, and these runs are often very difficult then for the opposition to deal with and contend with. And this is a player then who's very dangerous, and he looks to control the game for Al Ahly. Whenever then he does have to drop a bit deeper to ensure that he's able then to offer Al Ahly that extra man with regards to the defensive side of things within the heart of midfield. He's able to do that, and he's also able to break down play. So he is then quite the complete midfielder. And then you've got El Sulaya as well, who then plays mostly on the left-sided half space. And then when you move on right along, then we have a look at the front three. So you've got Sharif up there. Let's just move Abdul Monet and Rabia there. So when you have a look then at the front three, so you've got Sharif there who would play as the striker, and with Sharif then this is a player then who was very much anonymous the last time out against Mamelodi Sundowns, as Brian Onyango really marked him out the game. So this is a type of game then that he'd like to prove a point and ensure then that he can keep Brian Onyango and Rushin Daruk occupied, and ensure then that he's able then to score those goals for this Al Ahly side. And then when you have a look then at the right winger, sort of as the inverted winger, you do have Percy Tau. So when you have a look at Percy Tau then, this is a player who is very tricky, very skillful, very quick, and he's also got an eye for goal. And because then he would be coming up against Lila K, this is where then they could look to exploit, because like I mentioned, Lila K isn't the best in 1v1 defensive situations. B, Percy Tau would be cutting onto his strong foot, which would be Lila K's weak foot on the right, on his right hand side. So then this is something they could look to exploit, and Percy Tau can look to exploit then that pocket of space in between the two. And we do know that he's got an eye for goal, so he will drift at times and look to occupy zone 14, and also then offer them that final third penetration where then he's looking to score for this Al Ahly side. So we do know that he has been starting games, and as of late, and he does look like then he's reached his full fitness and he's ready then to make an impact for this Al Ahly side. And then when you move on right along then, starting on the left hand side, Magdi Afsha. So with Magdi Afsha, he is their playmaker, and this is a player then who does often enjoy then drifting and roaming around. So he's not a player then who is fixated to just one position. He does tend to love to occupy that pocket of space centrally, and he does also occupy then the two half spaces, and he does then look to give this Al Ahly side that positional superiority with regards to how then he looks to take the ball in between the lines, and how then he looks to impose himself and affect play. So whenever then he does drift in, that gives Ali Malul the whole left wide channel with regards then to being able to occupy that space. Then you have Magdi Afsha coming in and looking then to impose himself and looking then to create those chances for this Al Ahly side. So it's going to be very important then that Magdi Afsha can get into the game early as possible and look to start creating those chances for this Al Ahly side. However, we can also have a look at it then from a different perspective, because then there are other players that could also start for this Al Ahly side or come off the bench. So you've got Mohamed Tahir, you've also got then Al Shahat, and then you've also got Abdelkader as well. So those are the type of players, and you got Lewis as well. So those are the type of players then that can always come off the bench for this Al Ahly side. Or if Coach Pito sees something and realizes that, okay, maybe a Mohamed Tahir will give me a lot more than a certain player would, those are the type of players that they do have that can always offer them that. However, when we look at it then from a different perspective with regards to the formation, as much as I mentioned the 4-3-3, but because it's a game where they really need to get a result, and the last time out against Al Merrikh, they did go with a 4-2-3-1, which then is a variation of a 4-3-3. So with their 4-2-3-1, maybe then the difference could be that they go with Alou Dieng in there, going with Al Sulaya or Hamdi Fati, and then you'd have Afsha playing as the number 10. And then off the left, you can have Abdelkader. If not Abdelkader, you can have Al Shahat, or you can have Mohamed Tahir. So that's also another perspective to have a look at it from, because then this is a game where Al Ahly will want all 3 points. So when you have a look at this Al Ahly side, then I do foresee Percy Tau being a key player, especially considering then that he does come up against his old team, and the last time out, Al Ahly then just couldn't bury their chances. They were very dominant throughout the game. However, they just were not clinical enough, and they lacked that quality within the final third. Even Percy Tau had a couple of chances, but he couldn't bury them away. So this is a game where Al Ahly will want to right the wrongs, and they will want then to ensure that they're able to pick up the 3 points and put themselves then in a good position then to qualify and advance for the CAF Champions League quarterfinal, and try then ensure that they finish second. So, ladies and gentlemen, do tell me, what do you make of this mouth-watering encounter between Al Ahly and Mamelodi Sundowns? Who do you think will be the key players, and how do you think this game plays out? So just before I do go, if you do like some of the products that I've introduced from Manscaped, do then go to www.manscaped.com and then search for any of the products that you do like, add to cart, check out, and then add the code DISCITALK and then get 20% off and free shipment worldwide. Thank you very much for tuning in to yet another special episode of Disky Talk with New York. Signing out.